Hello. Hello, Carl. Hello, Simon. How are you?
Hello, very good, thank you.
So we're getting better at this. We've literally just got on. We haven't even pre-talked to each other, have we? This is just
nothing.
No, never, not a word.
Yeah,
I don't even know who you are.
Yeah, exactly. So, welcome to edition 6, everybody. We have no Jack today, which is kind of good for me because, I'll be getting less bombs from all angles. So I've only got Simon and Carl to take the piss out of me today. So, we're all good.
So you are an easy target.
I tend to be.
He sets himself up, doesn't he?
Yeah. I kind of weirdly enjoy it. It's weird. But, anyway, I first for everyone who doesn't know Carl, I'd just like to start with an intro. This is Carl, aka Mr. Stanza Fitness. Carl Constanza is from Stanza Fitness, owner of Stanza Fitness, however you want to call him. So. Whatever, whatever. It doesn't matter, Carl.
I'm Carl Constanza. I live in Bath and I work in Stanza Fitness.
Yeah, all of those variables, they count.
Yeah.
Okay? So Carl is the owner of Stanza Fitness Gym, PT, and ex bodybuilder. Do we call you that now? Ex bodybuilder.
That's a bit harsh, mate. What are you saying?
I can't compare my guns to anyone, mate. So that's why I'm like this.
We're just going to go below the screen.
I am training, I swear. And that's the worst thing, is I am actually training. That's I've not stopped. I've continued. I still look terrible. It's not.
Don't say that.
Where's the Linea Alba, George?
Oh, mate, there is no Alba. It's covered by a layer of biscuits, to be honest.
Jesus.
I've actually been quite good. It's actually coming through a little more, but not as good as it was before Neva.
Carl, I know you've not experienced it, and you probably haven't seen the cup that I made, George. Did he see the cup or not? He hasn't seen the cup. I made a cup for George that was a Secret Santa, and it was I just thought it was because when he lost weight, all George did was get his stomach out. That's all he did. So he'd be mid conversation and he'd be like, "Man, look at my linea alba." No, not his alba, his linea, not his abs, his linea alba, the connective tissue in your abs. He was so excited that you could nearly see that. He's all like, check it out. And then randomly after training sessions, he would spend a long time without his top on.
Hold on.
I put this, what?
Back up just a little bit. What do you mean? What do you mean nearly?
You see your linea alba? I mean, you need to be emaciated.
I mean, you can see it. Let me be
I know. You can see where it is. You can't see it. Yeah. But I made him a cup full of a collage of pictures of him with his top off, and he loves it.
It's probably the greatest present I've ever had for Christmas.
Is it like a trophy on a shelf above your bed?
No, he drinks coffee from it. Shows everybody.
Yeah, but look at me. I don't drink it at home where no one can see it. I drink it at Simon's gym where everyone can see it. So I'm just like, look, you'll need to get me another one for Carl's gym. That's what you'll need to. Anyway, I was actually introducing Carl then.
Yeah, you were.
Sorry. So, Carl from Stanza Fitness. I just wanted to start, Carl, by asking how you are first. How's it all going? How's home life?
Good, thank you. Just get my I think we've been locked down for kind of 6 weeks. I still get my head around it, to be honest. It's such an unprecedented set of circumstances that are affecting us all differently. But positive, got lots of things going on at home and just trying to keep active so that I, physically and as much as possible, and mentally, just to be stimulated, because I just get kind of a little bit down when there's not much routine and structure going on. So just trying to keep as much normal as possible, really.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, and are you doing any work training people wise, or is it all just?
Training wise, I've got a few clients that I'm working with at the moment, and it's been a pretty simple transition, really. Just kind of taking what we've done in the past and just doing it basically at home with slightly different variations of equipment, but essentially the outcome's the same. We kind of monitoring technique, form, execution, just talking through things, just making sure that their week and days are pieced together nicely, and they're just okay. It's nice just in these sort of times just to have a chat with somebody and just be, some of the clients that I've got are living on their own, and they just kind of nice just to have a little bit of a conversation for 5-10 minutes in between training, just like I say, that stimulation. So definitely still training people.
Yeah, cool. And how have you, like you said the transition's been quite easy. How have you found the program design for people that have limited equipment? Has it made you think a little more, or are you, was it quite easy, like you said, was that aspect easy as well?
Let's be honest, if there's only so much you can do body weight stuff with certain demographics of people.
Yeah.
So it doesn't take, much imagination to think up what to do with certain people, because there's only certain things they can do. Is that because they've got an injury? Is that because they've literally, like I say, just got body weight and stuff, things that they can do? Is it limitations with time and stuff? If they've only got 30 minutes because they've got children there, then you can only do so many things. So with some people, there's not as much thought process going into it. It kind of writes itself, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But some people, they've got a pretty good gym setup at home. So yeah, there's a lot more to it then. And then you have to think about it and continue with a little bit more of the normal types of programming that you would do in a gym.
Yeah. Have you found your queuing for people's exercises has changed a little bit since me, Simon and Jack spoke about this the other day, how we've been finding different ways to cue people and more, because obviously when we're in people's company, we can kind of be hands-on and we can
physically do it. Yeah, that's personal training, isn't it?
Yeah,
yeah, definitely. Yeah, there's you're looking intently at this screen, just trying to pick up on anything and sort of say to them, can you stand at this sort of angle? Can you move me to here? And just trying to get what you can. Hopefully, though, because we've worked with these clients for a good amount of time, and our way of like sending cues through to them has rubbed off on them. So when we sort of say to them, just, neutral spine, or just say a few little tips, they're kind of pretty good with it anyway. So we know that we're speaking, from the same sheet.
Yeah, cool. People. Yeah, the fortunate thing is, and I think Simon, you'd agree here as well, because we spoke about this on the first podcast, is we didn't, from the thought process of going from one-on-one training to online training, virtual training, it was like, oh, this is going to be so awkward. But because, like you said just there, we know our clients so well, I found it a really easy transition. The only thing that I would say that I had to think a little more was programming, because we're limited, like you said, we're limited. So there's only a certain portfolio of exercises we can do that are body weight. Yeah. So how do we adapt them and how do we make them progressively overload and everything like that? So those are the things that I'm kind of battling with each week to keep interesting for everybody. I don't know, what do you think, Simon? Would you agree on that?
No, I do agree on that, definitely. It's you're trying to, because instead of just banging programs out for everybody else, and because it's easy to make stuff hard, isn't it? I can give somebody 100 exercises and give them 30 seconds rest in between each one and do that for a cycle and they'll be dead. But that's not really what you're going for. You're trying to still improve technique, lifts, and how to recruit muscles and stuff. So it is, and then trying to progressively overload that. You have to play around with tempos and so on, especially when they don't have any equipment at the house. But going back to what Carl says as well, when he was saying you have to watch them intently, I find myself here a lot of the time.
Just a set of eyes.
When they're doing something, you're like, hold on, what is that?
Just turn slightly to the left.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I'm trying to explain, using bands. I had a session this morning with Anna. I'm sure she won't mind this. But we're trying to get a kettlebell set up with some bands, and I'm constantly trying to figure out a new way of trying to increase the band resistance for stuff, and trying to explain that over just vocally is quite hard to try and get somebody to do it. Like I have to constantly try and show them, and then they're trying to mirror it, and it's quite hard. We work it out in the end, but it's a whole different set of tactics. Like
there's like a moment, isn't there, where you're like, what? They're like, what? And you're like, are they getting me? Are they
getting me? You say it, and then you're like, right, let's reassess this again.
Cool. So Carl, can I just ask you to tell all the obviously any one of your guys who are watching will know you, but for the benefit of Simon and my clients who haven't met you, could you tell us a little bit about like the history of your, not just the gym, but your personal training career, and a little bit about the kind of the message of Stanza Fitness, the ethos and everything like that. And also, if you wouldn't mind, a little bit about your bodybuilding shows and prep and everything like that.
My background in fitness really kind of stems back to just always being interested in exercise, lots of different types of sports, whether that's team sports, individual sports. you know, whatever I can do, that's kind of been my either a hobby or something that I have then turned into a profession. So yeah, I did my PT course with Ben Clark over in Bristol. I think it was probably just over 7 years ago. That was a funny moment, meeting old Ben.
Yeah.
Didn't know we were going to be like we are now this far down the line, but
I think everyone has a moment with Ben where you're like, does he like me? You know,
we just met each other, and it was just like, all right. We're both trying to be too cool and stuff like that, and then actually ended up with just where we are now, and it's just funny. But we helped each other, and with myself then just my PT course ended up in a commercial gym, which I learned a lot from it. I learned a lot about what I should be doing, also what I shouldn't do. It also gave me a bit of drive to being quite, because I'm from sort of Street Glastonbury. I'm from Street Glastonbury area, and to come up to Bath, it was a lot busier. There's a lot more competition and stuff, and it gave me a bit more hunger. It made me kind of want to like, right, here we go. This is what their place to be. This is what I want to do. And going from kind of like the solo working for yourself, personal trainer, renting from a commercial gym, I just kind of was getting a bit, where are we going with this? What are we doing? You can keep kind of like doing your PT sessions, which is great. And I loved what I was doing, but I was like, where is it going and what are we doing? And there was quite a few things that were kind of frustrating me, Ben and Abby, because we'd all worked in the same place. And we were just kind of thinking, what can we do to make this better? And are we just going to continue on this? Are we just going to go to another commercial gym or another gym and have a similar type of scenario where really we want to have more of an impact on our ethos and our way of doing things with our clients? And really the only answer seemed to be to set something up ourselves. And we just kind of, it took ages. This wasn't something that just happened overnight. We kind of spent ages and ages working on what we wanted to do, how we wanted to do it. Even looking for a premises in Bath took a couple of years. It's so difficult to get commercial space in Bath. And we kind of, you know, bit by bit, we got to that stage where eventually we got set keys, and we, you know, have got what we, hopefully a lot of you guys have seen, which we're really proud of. The ethos of the Stanza Fitness essentially is that we want to have a collective of people, both people that work there and come there, that are all like-minded and all support each other and all able to have some sort of involvement with each other in and outside of the gym in terms of like learning. Basically, if we have like social events, it just becomes somewhat of a community, which something that community was getting lost at the commercial gyms that we've been working at, and it's something that we really wanted to bring there. Also as well, we wanted to bring in a facility that we had coaches that were highly educated and coaches that were thirsty to learn, coaches that were educating their clients correctly, getting good results with their clients, making sure they really looked after them. They weren't just a number on their books, people that were really invested in their clients. And I kind of like want to use the term elite coach and not just a gym instructor or something. We wanted to get a collective of these like-minded personal trainers and coaches together in Stanza Fitness, which is good because we have started to get to that point, and I just think it's made a really good working environment. And from the outside, you can just see this cohesive environment which is getting good results, and also hopefully as well looks like a lot of people that are enjoying themselves.
Yeah, I mean,
so just to go on that, so when you were talking about building up that community of coaches and stuff, so why did you hire George?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. He begged and begged. He even knocked on my house. He was like, please, 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 please. And I was just like...
Sympathy.
So he's actually, you know, he just worn me down.
I promised to clean the toilet.
You would believe, wouldn't you, Simon? That's
Well, look at the situation I'm in, you know.
Yeah, I promised to clean the toilets.
Yeah.
Look, we've all got different personalities, levels of expertise in different areas. But as a collective of coaches, one thing we do have in common is our mindset of how we want to look after our clients, and also in terms of being the best professional that we can be. We're not just doing this just, as I say, just to train a client, get paid and stuff. We genuinely want this to be our profession. I see a lot of personal trainers coming through the ranks that are just doing it as a hobby. They've seen somebody go, you can earn X amount of money doing it, and you can basically train people, and this is what you want to do, and you can be in your gym environment. It sounds all lovely jubbly, but actually when it comes to it, it's quite difficult. And I think we've collectively, you know, we've got to have the right-minded people that understand it's difficult, but also want to strive to the next level and the next level. And I think that's kind of, where you get this like level of hobby type PT, people that the PTs that are doing it for a hobby. And then you've got us, that this is our profession. This is what we want to do. This is what we live for, which is kind of, you know, why we have all got something in common.
I know that the facility you were in before, like I'm generally speaking here, but you would have definitely got people in there who just looked the part more than anything. And from that, then they would have got PT because they looked the part, but then they only fleeced people because they didn't have the knowledge, and how they looked that way wasn't truly what they're doing with their clients, and they just didn't care. It's more about personal status than it is about the care of your customers. And like,
I can't agree with you more. I agree.
Talking from my perspective of the gym, obviously we coming from the gym where we were at before Team Breakthrough, when I was looking around other gyms for, you know, I went to a few other gyms, won't name them on here. But, you know, I wouldn't have left Team Breakthrough, just to give my take on Stanza Fitness. I wouldn't have left Team Breakthrough had it not been a place like yours that was there, because I went into a few others, and, you know, I had to go to a place where I felt comfortable taking my clients at the end of the day. And I didn't feel comfortable anywhere until I came to see the gym. And I think the culture that you're trying to bring across, I think is happening, to be honest. I think there's,
it really takes time, George. It really does. You know, these things don't happen overnight. A good, strong culture between staff, coaches, the groups of people that you've got, and the types of people that you attract, it takes time. And when we're okay with that. We're okay with it being a slow burner. We're not trying to be all up in everybody's faces. We're just ticking along, just trying to get our heads down and do a good job. And the people that do come into contact with us and see us, they kind of understand, and they're like, pretty quickly, they go, right, I understand where you're going with this. So we're okay with it taking time. It's not a problem.
Yeah, but I think it's happening. I think the culture is there. I think it's. I mean, for sure, I really enjoy the place. I know my clients like it, and I think that genuinely the clients feel comfortable. I mean, we know so many people, don't we, that go into gyms who are nervous about going into gyms. And I think people who come to Stanza Fitness very quickly, whether it's members or PT clients, very quickly feel comfortable in the environment, because every member of staff is helpful, whether they're their clients or not, you know. So I think that's come across there, definitely, for sure. Talk us a little bit about your past in training as well, Carl, if you wouldn't mind. I think some of our guys definitely would like to hear about your how you prepare competitions. How long? Because although we've talked briefly about it, I've never actually asked you, how long were you doing it for?
So I was competing. I did about 7 years in a row, essentially. With a little bit, some of them had bigger gaps between than others in terms of like shows and stuff. Maybe, you know, I reckon the first show was around about 7 years. I started. I was training at a Spit and Sawdust type gym in Glastonbury, train station. Really good gym.
You know, I was going to ask you that, if you trained in train station, because I know so many people it's done it out that way.
And you know, the owners there, Mark and Phil, were really good with me. They you know, helped me, advised me, sort of gave me, you know, the bug for what I then went on to do. Said, go on, just do a show. I mean, I'd never squatted before. I literally trained. I don't even think I trained I trained legs 3 times before my first show, which was not good. There was an imbalance. But you know, you're naive. You're like, yeah, cool, I can do this. You go and do it. And I got bitten by the bug of doing the first show, and it just went on for, you know, the next show. When's the next one? When can you diet down for that? And I over the years, I kind of had different approaches to things. I probably learned the hard way, which I do with a lot of things in life. you know, where I was trying to do stuff myself, I made a lot of mistakes, but then you learn from your mistakes, and then I can pass that knowledge on to other people so they don't have to make the mistakes. So I probably could have got to my destination of where I was probably much more competitive a lot quicker if I sort of had other people around me or listened, but I was just doing things my own way. And, you know, I did okay with it at that point in the early years. Then decided to hire a coach, a contest prep coach, which was pretty well renowned. And he was a good guy, really helped me. We got some really good results, went to the British finals a few times. And then kind of very quickly going through the timescale, ended up having our first daughter, Peony, which almost straight away put a stop on me doing it, just because it's just one of those sports that's just so
selfish,
all or nothing. Or it's how I approach things. It's all or nothing. Now, some other people still do it and they've got children, and that's absolutely fine. But I feel it takes away certain good qualities of me from my family and then work, that they are more important at the moment, which is why I don't feel like I can compete at the moment. And I'm okay with that. At first, when I sort of slowed up a little bit or said I was going to stop, I was a little bit like, well, I'm not happy about this. But now, do you know what I mean? I've got other things that are filling the void of what that was doing for me, if that makes sense. So
yeah, I mean, obviously opening the gym must be a big part of that as well.
It was,
it's made you busy, if nothing more, if you know what I mean. Carl, with regards to your training, you said it changed over the years, which of course it would. You trial and error with everything. What would you say was the most effective thing, most effective year, let's say? Do you have a year where you think, actually, that what I did there was felt most effective?
Good question. It come down to a lot of things. One of the things was just having an open window of not having distractions, and it was just like I could just focus on what I needed to do, quite selfishly. In terms of what I was doing, I was starting to learn about my body. I've been doing it for kind of like 4 or 5 years, and I was starting to just understand all the cues, how to do things with the training myself much more efficiently. And also I was starting to do things just like get the balance right in my body in terms of what I was training, in terms of like splits and how many days a week I was training, volume and stuff like that. It was becoming, you know, the thing for me is I started off quite broy, and that's absolutely fine. And it worked, and it was quite simple with what it did. And then as time went by, as I started to become a personal trainer as well, I was learning different ways of doing things, better execution on stuff, different things to do with nutrition. And I think as I started to do my personal training and then work in that field, my competitiveness as a bodybuilder started to improve as well, because I was just seeing it from a more evidence-based approach, which really helped. And then also I had all of the years of practical application behind me, where some of it was good, some of it was not, but I could then still take that forwards with me. So I'd probably say one of the most effective years was, I can't remember the date, but it was the, let's have a think, what are we now? I think it was around about 2017, 2018 when I did Body Power Show. And I put the most amount of tissue on that I have ever done. But a lot of that come down to just my efficiency of eating and training and an accumulation of having a good window of opportunity just to focus solely on that. And it all came together nicely. So, yeah.
Tell me this, though, Carl, when you were saying that as you were going through your training and realizing that you're training for how your shape looked rather than just smashing all body parts, what did you do anything different, or did you increase any volume or intensity on body parts that you thought were lagging? As in, like, did you do twice a week? Did you do more intensity and more super?
Yeah, Simon, it was a really, really simple approach. If I had a lagging body part, and I wouldn't necessarily do it now like this. If I had another shot at doing things, which I may do at some point, I would probably do it with a little bit more accuracy. But this was an improvement from what I was doing beforehand, so it still had an impact. So if, for example, I needed to bring up a body part or, improve on something, I would just do more another day on it or more frequency. So particularly with legs, that was something I would just say, right, well, you've got to do them 3 times a week. And sometimes one of those sessions, 2 of those sessions might be full sessions. And then the other third session would be tying on the back of something else.
Yeah.
And it wasn't writing things down. I just had a program, didn't track any numbers or anything like that really. Which is probably not how a lot of people do things, but I am very, I go by feeling. You know, I walk into the gym, I know how I feel. If I don't feel good because I haven't slept that well or haven't eaten enough, you know, it might not be the greatest session. I've been doing it for quite a long time to understand that and do things intuitively, which is why I wouldn't advocate doing what I do many times. Because it's you know, and that's, and I'm not saying I would do that again now, but it's just got to a point where when I was doing it then, it was just literally a training program. Here's your 4 or 5 days. This is just split. And your rep range on certain exercises, you know, it could be as simple as just having from 12 to 20 reps on upper body parts, and then lower body, it could be from sort of like 12 up to 50. Because you might do 50 on the leg press or something like that. And it's you pick and choose depending on how you feel, where you're going. And I know that's so broad, and I know it doesn't really like, people would be like going,
mind's exploding.
Not, you know, where's the periodization? Where's this? And their heads are just going boom. And I get that. And you know what? I understand it. And I might have a different approach, but it was just how I did things. And, you know, if you look at certain other people, kind of like, the people operate in different ways. Athletes all across different genres of things, they do things in different ways, and so I just think you've got to kind of like find what works for you. And as time's gone by, I would probably now be a little bit more educated in terms of how I would approach programming things, but I'm also a little bit of a robot. If I hired somebody and they turned around and said, right, you've got to do 50 reps today on squats, and you've got to do 50 reps of squats tomorrow, and you've got to do 50 reps the next day, and they were just coaching me, I would just go with it. I'm like, you know, fine, you've told me what to do, so it is what it is. And that was kind of what was happening to a certain degree with, you know, with one of the coaches. You know, he put a very bodybuilding pro split type workout, and some of the stuff there, the amount of volume, you'd look at it now and you'd just be like, that is not okay. But because I was just like switched on to what I had to do, given it and do it, and that was it. So
I was just asking because there's a lot of, you know, obviously like I train, we all train, but there's a lot of evidence out there, just especially coming through now, that training a body part twice a week gives you greater gains than just training it once a week. Because I did it for years. I trained 5 times a week, and the 5 times in that week it would be chest, back, legs, shoulders, arms. You know what I mean? Proper bro split. But then the evidence is coming out there saying that is, you know, you hit chest on one day, you've got about 48 hours of muscle protein synthesis for that muscle group. So after that, you don't no longer have the same stimulus on that muscle group. So then it's the time then they increase or attack that muscle again. They increase that muscle protein synthesis. They make sure that it does grow. Because obviously, unless you're going and you're using steroids and so on and so forth, it's very hard. They stimulate that kind of growth by just smashing one session and then waiting a week and carrying on. And I've applied it to my training now. My training sessions are shorter, but I'm doing more volume. So instead of doing 12 sets on chest on a Monday and then hitting 12 sets in the next Monday, I might do 8 sets on a Monday and then 8 sets on a Friday. It's 16 sets. So total volume means that I'm doing way more on that muscle group per week. I'm recovering much better, but also then stimulating the muscle protein synthesis, which is helping that muscle grow then. So that's why I was asking. So you did.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I think frequency is definitely something we should think of if we want to improve, you know, improve a body part and bring it up essentially. I think as well, it's always been there though. If you even go back to somebody like Arnold, or if you look at some of their kind of like, if you can get hold of it or see it, some of their programming. Say, for example, Arnold wanted to bring his legs up. So what does he do? He just trains it 3-4 times a week. But there was no like evidence-based research to back that up. He was just like, common sense makes me think that I should train it more frequently. But then we've obviously got more information to say about how we do with rest times, how long we've got to do before we then stimulate the muscle again. And we can be a bit more specific with how we deal with that frequency. frequency, which is more useful to us. So yeah, definitely. I feel that you would have a better result in terms of bringing up muscle groups and improving them if you train something more frequently within reason. And the thing is, though, and this goes for hypertrophy.
Yeah.
People are like, what's the most effective rep range? What's the most effective this? The subject is so broad. It's so difficult to kind of like pinpoint things. And I think there's just a few variables that we can just work with, and then just, use our experience of what works outside of that as well.
Adjust based on the person in front of you, basically.
Yeah.
Based on what you were saying, I was about to ask you, and you kind of answered it already, because you brushed upon it. You said you probably do things differently now. Is that what you do differently now? One of the things is very similar to what Simon just said. Is you change.
I agree. Yeah,
you do more frequency on each muscle each week rather than pound a session really, really hard every time.
Yeah, I mean,
for a week.
I probably would say that I would be more sensitive to how long I train for. I'd be much more efficient about getting in and getting out. Doing shorter sessions potentially. Yes, I would do more frequency of body parts, and maybe just differently as well. Maybe kind of like taking the idea of where we can work with different scales of like RIR and RPE. Do I have to be going to absolute failure every single day? No. And that was something that I was a bit. Do you know what? There's going to be something. Back then, I every single session was like, this is it, I'm going to kill myself. And I loved it and I enjoy it. And to be fair, that's kind of just how I train a little bit. But it would be nice now as time goes by to see if I can work in a certain parameter where it's like, right, you don't have to go to that point, but then on a certain day, you allow yourself to go to a little bit further and just see if I could get a better, result at the end of it. But that would be a little bit experimental because I wasn't doing that towards the end of when I last competed. It was still pretty much, you're in the gym, you put everything into it, and that's it, kind of all or nothing type approach.
Do you remember when we went to, Simon and I went to a 2-day seminar in
Dublin?
Dublin, was it? Yeah, of course it was. Yeah. By the way,
Thai green curry ever.
We found the best, and I don't know whether it's because
it's got to be the best. There's two people eating the same meal and then coming out with the same conclusion. That's pretty much a study in itself.
But think about this, right? So I'll just give you the scenario. We stayed on the marina, and we thought because the marina in Malahide, in Dublin, because their gym was in the marina, ISI gym was in the marina. We thought that our hotel would be right next to it. Turns out it was a 40-minute walk.
40 easy, and I was convinced. I was like, oh yeah, I go to Dublin all the time, man. Malahide, it's up the road there. Like it's only around the corner. I live 3 hours away from Dublin. Like, you know what I mean? My geography was terrible there.
Oh mate, we arrived late. We were hungry, and we thought, oh yeah, it's just over there. We walked for 40 minutes, found this curry house. The curry house, a Thai
restaurant.
And it was like, and I don't know whether it was just the Thai food or the fact that we were starving and we just walked for 40 minutes at the end of a day of traveling that made the food so amazing. But anyway, it was the best Thai green curry I've ever had. Expensive, but the best Thai green curry I've ever had. But anyway, we went to a seminar there. On the third day, John Meadows took us through a training day, and he talked about his training split and what you were talking about with regards to, back to the wall type of training, bury yourself in every session. He talked about like, if you wanted to pick up a lagging muscle group, let's say it was chest, that you'd work just underneath for the first 2 days. And, just underneath, you might push the last set on everything. But on the third day, on the final day, where, so let's say you did a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 3 different chest sessions. On the final day, you'd hit it really hard. That's the session you hit it really hard. And he even talked about finding it difficult in the previous 2 sessions, not going that way. Yeah, so yeah, I agree. I think working kind of just underneath, I think massively helps with the recovery post-session.
Yeah. But going from that, remember when John Meadows was saying, like, our train of thought, I'm sure Carol has probably been taught the same thing. So when regards to strength training, if you're pairing up, like, I don't know if you know of Lane Norton's program, that fat style training where he does 2 days heavy and then he does like a couple of days where it's more hypertrophy and volume.
Yeah.
So the understanding that we have from strength training is that you always do strength training first because it taxes the nervous system. It's really hard to recover from, and it's the most important session. So you have to lift big bad weights, be fresh, and then later on in the week you do your volume sessions or do whatever, your hypertrophy, your drop sets and so on. But John Meadows actually flipped the script on that, didn't he? That's what was the difference. Because he was like, prime the muscle, train it, get it working, and then on that last day, then hammer it, because his idea of it was that why you go in there and smash a muscle group on day one and then struggle for the rest of the week when you can do 2 good sessions in the week for that muscle group, and then at the end.
But that's kind of the same with your if you've got like a 60-minute, that's on a weekly thing. If you go down to an individual session and your first exercise is squats and you absolutely kill yourself, the rest of the session could be technically ineffective. And you've got to kind of like scale out your intensity as you go through it potentially. Now, sometimes, you know, we go in and you think, right, let's pick the biggest exercise. You're going for squats and you nail it and you're absolutely battered. And you don't have the, like you say, the reserve, the effective reps left to do anything constructive on the rest of the session. It's like, well, how's that work? So I do understand both on a weekly period of where you do that. I think with training experience though, if it comes down to sort of like the general public and people that are going out there, they've got to learn individually how close they are getting to failure. They've got to understand what it feels like, where it is. Yeah. Not enough people have gone to failure in training. They really don't know what training failure actually is when you have gone to that place. Yeah. And for people setting different RIRs and RPEs and stuff like that, if they haven't gone to that place, then that means nothing. So I think it's important to kind of sometimes in a constructive way, safe way, and maybe do it with a coach. Figure out, you know, and learn what it feels like so that you can work to correct parameters. So if we're supposed to work as close to failure as possible, when if this is with hypertrophy as well, then we need to know where's the max, where's the mid, and where's the bottom range. If that makes sense.
It does. It definitely makes sense. Yeah, there was I did one session with a bodybuilder years back there, and I used to think that I trained hard, and obviously these guys are on a different level altogether, bodybuilding, going for like a pro card and stuff like that. But I did one session and we did 3 exercises and I vomited at the start of the second exercise. And the workout, literally, I'll tell you the workout: leg press, leg extension, leg curl. I got the leg extension and vomited. And all we
sort
did
yourself out.
Yeah, I know. And I was like, oh, you know, I can hang with a big boy. You know what I mean? This ain't that bad. Leg press. And I was thinking he's going to choose squats or something. So we did 15 reps. We did another 15 reps. And I was like, yeah, it's not too bad. And each time he's just chucking plates on. And then he was like, right, cool. We're going to go 300 now and we're going to do 15 reps of that. And I was like, I can give you about 1. And he's like, we're doing 15. And he got me 15. Do you know what I mean? He wiped the floor with me with 15, and then we did a drop set after that. But just learning that there's that possibility you can do more is so valuable, because the next time I hit that session again, I went hard, because I knew that I could hit the 15 reps on there. It was just the fact that he was looking at me thinking, come on. Come on.
And I think we've got to put it into context as well. We're not trying to, I'm not trying to advocate balls to the wall, and I'm not trying to advocate, going to failure all the time, but we do need to work hard with training. Yeah. It's not supposed to be just like go in and, you're using your scales of RPE and RIR and let's just go cruise through it. Exercise is supposed to be hard. And from my point of view, one of the things that I'm struggling with the home training and training at home, this is for me personally, is it just doesn't stimulate me. I go into a gym, and if I've got, for example, like a bigger lift or something like that, I get slightly excited by it. I get the adrenaline, and I'm like, yeah, come on. And I like the work rate that comes alongside with it, which is what I'm struggling with at home. It's like I've got a kettlebell and a red band, and I'm like, you are not exciting me at the moment, so I will leave you alone.
That's why you're sat at home doing 1,000 bicep curls before the show.
I know a really good PT, mate. Well, he's not good. He's not good. He's just incredibly handsome.
Yeah. Who's that?
You don't know him. You wouldn't know him.
No.
Carl, was it you that was telling me about the test that a test that they'd done that found the average from the testing when people were trying to figure out what their point of failure was, and most people were kind of 10 reps away. Was that you that was telling me about that?
You know what? There is something that I may not have told you, but I have seen something, and I've got a terrible memory in terms of how close people are, what they perceive actually failure is, and how many reps they are away from it. And I think the number was something in around double figures, like 10 reps away from actually what they were close to. And it might be, give or take a different exercise. It might be like quite often a leg extension, that was what they were using, but I don't know the specifics. But yes, that's right. People, yeah.
So the point of that is, I guess, is what you were saying. And for anyone who's watching who, the 3 people who are watching and the rest that will watch later.
Is that us 3?
It's us 3, yeah. No, it's Sean, Katie, and Rory.
Yeah.
Stu was watching, but because it's not about Ryan, he probably thought, nah. But the point is, for anyone who's looking to build muscle, what the point that Carl's just made about knowing where that failure point is becomes really important when you consider that most people are kind of 10 reps away. And if you're 10 reps away from your point of failure, you really want to be working 2 or 3 reps away at most. If you
want to leave one in the tank at least, in that sort of forms.
Yeah, but if you're leaving 10 in the tank, you're going to massively limit your progress.
But also when you're talking about, because it's for muscle building, but also just training in general, like training our clients for fat loss and everything else, like what we're trying to get from them is we're trying to drive a stimulus to create adaptation. So if you just stay within your comfort zone all the time in training, so if you go in one week and you hit 10 reps on the back squat, and the next week you come in, you hit 10 reps on the back squat and haven't changed the weight, what's happening in there? Your body already knows that it can do that. So there's no need to force it into change if it can already do the stuff. So that means each and every time you go out and hit that same training session, there's less and less stimulus happening all the time.
Okay, I just got to apologise to Anna, Adette, and Eloise, who have all just piped in and said that they're very sorry, guys. My Facebook is telling me that there's only 3 people watching. Turns out that there's 6 people. So,
yes,
we're getting more popular. Stardom, here we come. You guys, we'll remember you because you were there first. All right, you were there first. So well done. My apologies. Sorry, Simon. I had to get that in because.
But you know what I'm saying there, as in, because people, when we're trying to get somebody to improve their strength, improve muscle imbalances and all that, we need the still force change. We need the force adaptive change, and by doing that, we need to take people close to the age. Sometimes we need to be increasing load, increasing reps, reducing rest periods, whatever it is, to force that change. So it doesn't always just apply to muscle building, fat loss, and any form of strength gain. This is all applicable, or any form of training. If you only run 5K every day, but you want to do a London marathon, you're going to have to run more than 5K a day, aren't you? You're going to have to step that up and get closer and closer to that marathon.
Here's an interesting thing with regards to training people from home, and the guys who are training with me from home who are watching will probably know this already from our sessions. Is that when it becomes so easy when I PT people at the gym to only change the stimulus of how much load they're carrying. Whereas actually in all the sessions now, if people have the load, I'm changing it and making it harder if I feel like they can. But for example, week 1, if people haven't got that load, you did 8 reps here. The next week we'll do 10. The next week we'll do 12. Okay, week 4, 12's actually still all right. You haven't got any extra weight. Let's, like you said, Simon, change the tempo. So all of a sudden they've gone from a steady tempo that's putting them under tension for 30 seconds to a much slower tempo that's putting them under tension for 40 to 50 seconds. So already there's and I'm finding I'm thinking about that more now, home training people, than I probably than I was in the gym.
In the gym, yeah.
I probably should have been right in the gym. It gets
it's embarrassing.
So Anna, before Anna's asked a question, thank you, Anna. She's asked, is there a plan or any advice you can give to come up with how to find your max effort on exercises, push, pull, lower and upper? Is there anything you can give advice to Anna there? is it just a simple set of advice, I guess, on that one? Do you want to field that one, Carl?
So how to find your max effort?
Yeah. How to find,
how to find failure?
How to find your failure point for, let's say,
you know,
10 reps.
The one thing that we've not been mentioning in terms of like improving stimulus and you know, moving forwards is execution. You can improve your execution and get a change of stimulus.
Yeah.
So I would say that if, for example, you are doing, let's say, a deadlift and you put an extra 2.5 on either side, and your execution fails or goes backwards and regresses, that's your threshold. So you need to potentially then look at it and see what's going on. Was it just a setup thing, or was it because you just weren't ready to be lifting that type of load? And then work on the execution. I feel that the repetitions, the volume, or whatever it is that you're going upwards and increasing should only increase if the execution's right. And then the moment the execution fails, you have to reconsider what's going on with that.
Yeah. So
does that make sense? Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You're talking mechanical failure, which is actually probably the most important thing, right? Yeah. So Anna, what I think that's
not even too much is to mechanical failure. Like if they're not able to execute, like, you know, complicated. It's normally going to be compound movements which are multi-jointed, and there's just a little bit more to them. If, you know, they're doing a squat and they're not maintaining good structure when they're doing it, then you don't just say, cool, you went up and down and the bar speed was good, but actually the positioning was incorrect. Yeah. So you know that actually if you put more weight on it, the positioning is only going to get worse. So you need to then get the positioning correct. You need to get them efficient in that position before you then put the weight on, because it's just going to get worse and worse and worse as you add more weight on.
Okay. So
also, just to throw on to that, George, sorry.
Go ahead.
They try and find failure point as well. Like your everyday programming can do the exact same thing. You know, like we talked about a few weeks ago, if I give somebody an exercise where it's 4 sets of 8 to 6 repetitions, then I want that person to find 6 eventually. I want them, they have to drop their reps until they hit 6, because the execution, like Carl said, wasn't good enough. Fatigue was too high, and they just couldn't possibly get another rep. That's when you start to figure out, because you know yourself, George and Carl, if you're doing a back squat and you know when you can't get another rep out there, and you can develop that on week. So week 1, you hit all 4 sets of 8, no problem. Weight goes up next week automatically. You come in, you do 4 sets of 8 again. The weight's not there. You've not hit your peak yet. You go in again, you up the weight, you get 8, 8, 7, 6. That's your weight. Yeah, that's how you find it, and then you can safely say, right, I think my 8 rep max is somewhere around X, Y, and Z.
That's really good. I've got another thing that I do with my clients, where I get them to do. Let's say if I'm getting them to do sets of 8, I get them to build up the weight, and I use these, and I don't call them warm-up sets. I call them primer sets. So I prime each rep, and I go up, on the point where I think, based on very much how you were talking about it, Carl, if once they get to that 8 reps and I think, oh, that was really close, their form was on the edge of breaking there, then I drop it a little bit and get them just, let's say it's 50k on a bench press, I drop it to 47.5 once I found it, drop it to 47.5, because what I find at that point, I do 4 really positive sets where there's 8, 7, 6, 6, 6 or something like that, and then we can work. So that's another way of finding that point. Actually, you work up to a point where you're right on the edge. Once you're there, so you can maintain the sets, just drop it down. Someone's asked us a good question. How can we find time to train smarter and not harder when we have busy lives? Okay, so anyone wanna get answer to that one?
Well, we mentioned it a little bit earlier on, I think, in terms of efficiency, maybe kind of like cutting down training sessions, make sure you're getting specifically what you need and no junk training. So what's your goal? What do you need to be doing and where you're going? And make sure you've just got that in the training program. You know, sometimes you might just add in a little bit of this and add in a little bit of that, but that's adding more time to what you're doing. Yeah, you know, we've all seen people kind of like training 2 hours long or whatever. I think you probably could get a good training session in around about 45 minutes, or allow an hour for the gym. 15 minutes can be getting there, sorting yourself out or whatever, but then just getting the training session down to 45 minutes. And then being more efficient as well. It's experience. I think as you become more experienced in the gym. You learn how to be more efficient about what you're doing. You know, there's lots of different ways of, it depends what, I guess, the thing, the goal that you're doing. But, you know, if you go into a gym and you have a training partner and they're always late, that's not going to help. I know it's quite a novel, like silly thing, but maybe just train on your own, get your headphones in, just get the job done. Do you know, there's quite a few different like variables that can really kind of like help and speed it up and make it more efficient.
Yeah, I think prioritizing your goal, so setting the goal is the most important thing. Prioritizing that goal. So if your goal is to, like, I don't know, run a marathon, you've then got to make your priority to do some running. Do you know what I mean? So that's the main priority, because what is most important is if you're not putting the miles in, you're not going to be fit enough to run that marathon. So
I think we get a lot of people kind of trying to be a jack of all trades and feel that that's, you know, we have to be this rounded, and it's okay to be a bit more specific, especially if this, like you say, you're going to do a marathon, then run. That's what's going to get you better, with a little sprinkling of some strength work to help you, or whatever it is in and around some gym work, which can help with the running most definitely. But again, you know, people spread themselves too thin and wonder why they don't get progressive, you know, good progression. It's okay to be kind of like tunnel vision with certain things. We don't have to go all in and sort of do lots of different things. I get a lot of clients, or I do a lot of consultations with people, and they say they want to, for example, improve a certain area of muscle, glutes, you know, improve their body composition. And you ask them what they're doing for the week, and they're like, yeah, I'm doing 20 HIIT sessions and going cycling 3 times a week. I'm running like here, there, and everywhere. And then I'm going to the gym and I'm going on the treadmill and I'm doing this. And you're like, that's more than I do in a year. How are you doing that? And I'm
how are you alive?
Down to what the specific of your goal is. If it's body composition and, you know, building muscle, if it's for aesthetics, that's fine, but it's going to need a lot less than what you think you actually need. It's going to be a good structured strength and hypertrophy program, sprinkling of some sort of cardio potentially if you need it, and getting rid of all those other things so you can get really efficient at actually what's going to make you better at what you want to do. That's it. Be specific with it.
As well, I agree. Yeah,
if I was to go on that as well, just so if you want to train smarter, as in like you got a busy lifestyle, to me is also that means that you don't want to be spending lots and lots of time training. So the way that we do it as trainers, they fit a lot of stuff in one session, is supersets, giant sets, triple sets, all that sort of thing. So you could do 4 exercises where you have 4 single exercises. You could do a squat, a lunge, a leg curl, an RDL. And then you could just do them as 4 sets each, which means per exercise, you have to have 4 lots of rest. Or you can superset them completely and do a giant set. You can go squat, leg curl, lunge, RDL, and pair them up where they're opposing muscle groups, and you've just smashed the same session with 1 rest period. So instead of that, you know, what's 4 exercises with 4 rest periods, you know what I mean? It's a lot per exercise, it's a lot. Whereas if you condense them all into one and do it like a circuit format, then you save yourself a bucket load of time. The session will be hard. So I don't know if the question was there, like hard or not, or smarter, not harder. Hard is always going to be in there, I think.
Yeah, I don't think that she meant that she didn't want to train hard. I think it was more about like fitting the content that she needed in to the week. I think
also maybe, sorry George, but maybe just let somebody have a look at it. You know, sometimes I've had a look at things over the past, and people are doing way more than what they need to. So get another pair of eyes on it. Essentially, get a professional. That's where, like, I refer back to what I was doing with the bodybuilding. The moment that I started to really make progress forward was when I got another set of eyes on what I was doing. Sometimes we just, you know, got the blinkers on and we think that that's the right thing to do, but get some professional advice, get somebody that's specific to what you're doing, if it's running or whatever it is, bodybuilding, strength competitions, or even just body composition, whatever it is. Speak to that person and they can just give you a little bit of direction and go, actually, you could just get rid of that. That would be a way of training or making things smarter and more efficient for you.
Another thing you can do, and I think we brushed on it with the bodybuilding thing when we were talking about the multiple muscle groups. And if I relay us back to maybe running again, because it's an easy one to do. If we're trying to get 13 miles in and 30 miles in a week, you know, is it more sensible to do it over two runs, or is it more sensible to do it over 3 or 4 shorter runs that you can recover from? Okay, and again, we're working into something that you were talking about, Simon, where we can shorten the sessions but still get the same amount of workload in. More importantly, recover much easier from. So hopefully that's been helpful there.
Can I just go back, not to that, but just to the point that Carl raised there, when he's like, when you get a client through and they're doing 3 billion sessions a week and then wondering why progress is not happening, or they feel tired or whatever, because we all get it. I mean, and I'm going to say it, and it's not sexist, but women are terrible for it. And the only reason that women are terrible for it is because men don't really like doing classes so much. They think they're too hench to do classes.
Men are the opposite. They're normally not doing enough.
Yeah, exactly. And women are doing too much.
It's like, but
where I'm going with it is, in terms of fat loss, right? You've got to see it as, and George will agree with me here because we did the same course, which I'm stealing the information from, is that we've all got a deck of cards to play when it comes to fat loss. And in that deck of cards, you've got calorie deficits, you've got increased volume and workouts, you've got increase of cardio output, and a few other variables. So why would you, and they're there for a specific reason, they put in place whenever you're getting a plateau. So like Carl's client there, he was saying about, where somebody's training all the time. Where do you go with a client who trains 7 times a week and possibly 14 times in a week inside the 7 days? What more do you add? If they're not losing weight doing that, then where else can you go? You know, it's almost like, and if I take my own fat loss journey, the first thing I did was track my food. Yeah. The second thing I did was reduce my food. And then the third thing I did was increase my volume. Then the fourth thing I did was reduce my food a little bit. Then I added cardio in. Do you know what I mean? There's these steps in place all the time just to try and keep fat loss going. And what you're trying to do as minimal amount as possible to get the maximum amount of results. So especially when it comes to fat loss with food and stuff, people just go, this magic number of 1,200 calories. I'm on 1,200 calories. Why? Well, it's good for fat loss. So is eating 1 scoop of peanut butter a day. You know what I mean? It just doesn't, it has no context there, and people don't know how many calories they're at. So if you go down to your lowest calorie intake that you could possibly get, and then fat loss stops, then what? What do you do from there? Whereas if you were burning 2,000 calories and we brought you down to 1,800 and you're losing weight, that's amazing. That's amazing. You don't know that you're really dieting. You've only dropped out a biscuit a day. You're getting results. And then when that stops, we ask you to do a little bit more. Do you know what I mean? There's all these cards you can just dip in and out of in order to gain that result.
How often have you made the changes, Simon? Just for everyone.
For me, the changes happen every like 2 to 3 weeks. So after measurements and so on. But if I said to you last week, I'm on 2,600 calories. I've been on 2,600 calories for 6 weeks. I haven't had a change because I'm getting leaner. So why would I do anything different in order, if I'm still getting the result that I want? You know what I mean? There's just no point in me going out there and doing anything. The only thing I've changed is this week I've got 2 weeks left. I've increased my steps, well, I'm trying anyway, from 15,000 to 20,000 a day. So that's my last point of call. I'm not going to reduce any more calories. I'm just going to do more output. My sessions stay the same. My calories stay the same, but I'm now moving much more.
Yeah. Okay.
Small blocks, small steps each time, and you'll get results.
And you're again. I go back to how important that is for recovery. When you're in a calorie deficit, it's much harder to recover from. So working in that perspective makes it much easier. Because remember, Carl will tell you what it's like to be at the leanest and at the bottom end, and how hard it is to recover from training and everything when he was really close to a show. And actually I'll probably ask you about that in a second, Carl. But we don't need to, general public, we don't need to be like that. We can do it, a lot more sensibly, and we can still get good results and feel not terrible. So Carl, you got anything to add there on that?
Yeah, I mean, I can tie it into bodybuilding. And one thing that I really am very grateful with the whole experience is it taught me a lot about how to use a gym in such a detailed way. And also taught me a lot about nutrition. And also, if you look at kind of what we were just talking about then in terms of improving your body composition and you know, obviously getting healthier, fitter, stronger. With improving your body composition, the actual with bodybuilders, they go down to, you know, ridiculous levels of body fat, and it's still done in the same way as what it is with the general public. You basically, like Simon said, you have your cards. You don't just literally go balls to the wall and start out at the bottom. You use a little bit at a time. When you don't get things happening the way you need to, you make adjustments, and these adjustments can come from quite a few different things. And then as time goes by, what I would do is, you know, just look at the picture, and things start to get simpler and simpler as you get leaner and leaner, essentially. You would probably eat so that you can feel more full, and I don't know, keep because you're eating less food, just make sure you're getting higher food groups with better sources of micronutrients, and you just eat cleaner bro science type stuff, but you eat more nutrient dense types of foods, whereas if it was kind of like at the beginning, I might keep a little bit of kind of cake and chocolate in, but then, you know, as time goes by, it's the same process. If you're a bodybuilder and you're going to the leanest points, you do similar things to what one of our clients might do, but you just don't go quite to that last little bit. But yeah, what Simon said, playing your cards, exactly right. Yeah, right, okay, nothing's changed. Well, you're already doing so many steps. Let's probably not bump that up too much. We're in isolation, so I don't think we can make that realistically. But what we could do is, if you just be careful with your calories and just drop it down maybe just a smidge, that might be more realistic thing for you to adhere to. So yeah, it's just playing your cards and just kind of looking at it logically, and nothing extreme either.
Cool. Carl, can I ask you about kind of last 6 weeks before you would go into a show? Just, you know, kind of where the calories would be at if you were counting them, that is, and how you felt at that point, you know, from your session.
Yeah, cool.
Did you notice a big difference or anything in how you felt? All right, Ben, how's it going? Ben's watching. Ben, what's going on?
I'd probably say it's 6 weeks out, because normally most of the time I you know, when we're looking at fat loss, you know, some people are slow and steady with it. That works better for them. I'm kind of like, you can get me in a short space of time, hit me hard, and I can stick with it, no problem. So quite an aggressive cut. So 6 weeks in really probably wouldn't be too bad. In terms of calories at that point, I would probably still be quite high. It'd probably be around about 3,500, very high protein, lots of carbs, minimal fats. I've always had quite high carbohydrates in my diet, and that's really even right up to the last minute competing. Training 4 or 5 times a week, and then as each week would go by, there would be 2 variables. It would be increased cardio, decreased calories, and that would always come from either fats or carbohydrates. Protein pretty much always stayed the same. And as time went by, you start getting a bit more fatigued because you're trying to keep your training sessions intense. Like I said, I go pretty balls to the wall in my training sessions. Maybe I shouldn't do sometimes, but you got to remember you're competing. So if you're sat there and you're competing, you're getting, you know, amped up. I don't want to be like sitting there going on the leg press, like, come on. Oh, actually, I'm going to keep 5 reps in reserve on this one. Just take it easy. You know, it's not, you're trying to compete against other people. It's just, you've got to get the right kind of like context of it. So yeah, as time goes by, you're trying to manage the fatigue that you get, and also make sure you get sufficient recovery, sufficient sleep. Make sure you're getting your food in as well, which is obviously hugely important. And I'd probably say the only significant changes really in terms of nutrition then would be the last couple of weeks, where you might, depending on who you are with what you're doing, need to deplete somewhat with your carbs just to get that little bit lighter. For me, I was always at the top end of my weight category. So I would have to really diet down hard to make sure I got into it. But that's not always the same for some people. Some people can be in the last couple of weeks, they could be ready a couple of weeks out, and then just go into the show then. Just keep eating what they're eating and they're done. You don't have to leave everything to the last minute, if that makes sense. But how you would feel probably in those last couple of weeks is just ready to go, in terms of you're excited, nervous. There's a lot of preparation in terms of doing things like your posing, preparation, getting to meet old friends. I met a lot of cool people, made lots of nice friends. So excited to go to these big events and essentially put what you have been doing behind you, to the stage and present it. And I always remember the first time I was doing it, I was so nervous that I was trying to think of a way that week. So I was competing on the Sunday, and that week I was like, there is no way I'm getting tan, standing in these trunks on stage. It was the first time, and I was absolutely like, this is just not normal. Why am I doing this? Why have I agreed to do this? And I did it, and it actually was a fantastic feeling. It was really good, and in conjunction with the satisfaction of having like an end product to all the training and all the work with the nutrition that you had leading up to it, it was actually like, that makes sense now. So everything that I do leading up to it, that's the end product, and I felt satisfied with the journey. So yeah, it's an interesting thing. There's also a lot of kind of like different ways of people approaching peak week. There's the bro way of doing it, which has lots of controversial, ideas of dehydration and stuff like that. I never really did any of that. I kept it very simple. Whatever I did, whatever I was eating, probably in terms of food groups, 8 weeks out, 6 weeks out, 4 weeks out, would be the same in the first week. I learned this towards the end because there was a few times where I would chop and change stuff, and it would just have negative effects in terms of how I looked, and also, sometimes upset my stomach. I remember one morning I was like, I'm just going to eat like a cheat meal, and I ate fry up, and it just gave me a really bad stomach. I mean, how retarded is that? You haven't been eating that type of food in that type of way, and I decided to go and do it. So that's like learning the hard way type thing that I was talking about beforehand. But I always am glad that I've been through those things, because then I can pass on that information to people. I'm a bit of a guinea pig. It's like, do stupid things, do good things, and take that forward and pass on the information.
Did you? How was your mood when you were at the depth of the calories and stuff? Was that
when it got low, George? I remember sometimes I was doing like 2 hours of cardio a day, and calories might be really, really down there. Let's say sort of around about 1,200, and it might get a little bit lower as you deplete.
Which is what, probably mostly protein, isn't it? And
yeah, pretty much. And a bit of lettuce,
Ooh,
some sugar-free chewing gum. And like a low-calorie fizzy drink. I'd have always have low-calorie fizzy drinks. It was always kind of like a
easy way to just get it. Yeah.
But it was difficult, but you've got to put it into, this is why it's not normal to expect other people to want to go through it or do it. It is very difficult, but when you are trying to compete, you deal with it and you're okay with it. And I had a very good routine, a great support network around me, good training partner, a fantastic wife who's always supported me with what I do, and family as well, and friends. So, I was good. I was always ready to go. When it comes to the last week and it comes to the day of the show, when you're like, this has been going on for a while, I was buzzing for it. I was always excited.
Tell me this as well, though, because obviously, like, your calories are smashed on the floor, and it's not easy. I mean, the smell of some foods would be enough to tip you over the edge because you're so low. But correct me if I'm wrong here, but the fact that you were probably seeing some incredible results at that time, you were getting leaner by the day, everything was getting sharper looking. Did that help drive you forward?
Massively. Yeah, absolutely. You're right. And, if you see little subtle changes, and I think we can relate to this in terms of our coaching. When we've got a client, it's quite important with somebody's like weight loss to get them to see a result quite quickly so that they get stimulated by it. And so that might mean being slightly aggressive in the beginning and then steady it up as you go forward. So for me, every day, especially when you're at that body weight, you're seeing kind of, or a condition, you're seeing subtle changes, subtle improvements, different feathering coming through on your body, and it stimulates you. You're like, this is good, this is good. So yes, it's difficult. I would say it is one of the more difficult sports out there to endure. But I loved it and I enjoyed it. It's always been a huge part of, like, from when I started my life right up to now. I've always felt okay doing it. I wouldn't complain. Nobody's got a gun to my head saying you've got to be in a deficit and you've got to do the exercise and stuff like that. It's by my choice. So it's unfair for me to turn around and sit and be like, oh, you're an idiot eating all of that and you're stupid doing this. It was actually what I found. A lot of people complaining about what I was doing, but I was like, this doesn't impact you.
But
so
when you go into especially so when you go into personal training, and and you've got clients and stuff, I think that one of the hard barriers there is the try and get the support system that's around the people to help them as well. You know, how often do you say it that like, oh, you know, it's just that my husband does this and he orders takeaway and it's just so hard and we have these treats here and, you know, my friend said I should just leave it and just enjoy food and blah, 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 blah. There's all these reasons. And if you don't have that support group around you saying like, oh, no, you know, it's okay. That's what you're doing is brilliant. And don't worry about eating this. We'll figure something out. And it will go such a long way. I used to get shit in the last gym that I worked when somebody offered me a cake and I'm like, I'm sorry, but I'm cutting down. Like, you know, I don't need any of that. And they're like, oh, you only live once. And I'm like, eating that cupcake is not going to bring any new joy into my life apart from about two seconds when I'm scoffing it down. But I find it's the pressure from other people that aren't succeeding that is trying to bring you down. You know, if I sat out in Bath now and had a McDonald's out of a box, nobody would bat an eyelid. If I then went to lunch with a load of friends who went to McDonald's, but I was like, oh no, guys, don't worry about it, and then whip my Tupperware out full of vegetables, meats, healthy, starchy carbs or whatever, they'd be looking at me like as a weirdo. And the reality is I'm doing something that's beneficial to me and it makes other people uncomfortable because they know what they're doing isn't healthy.
Sometimes it's not understanding it as well, Simon. I think when people don't understand something, they're quick to judge it. And I'm guilty of doing that. If you don't understand it, you're like, no, that's stupid or that's this. And you know, especially when it comes to kind of eating a particular way or the way that you may do what you find quite straightforward or that you enjoy, they're kind of like dismissive of it. You know, a lot of people enjoy having a glass of wine most evenings. I don't really, but that's not to say that that's incorrect or, you know, they shouldn't be doing it. We've just got, I don't really understand when somebody goes, I'm desperate for a pint. I'm like, I don't get that. I'd rather just have like a soft drink or something. So I don't know. And I did notice it as well when I was competing, that when people started to understand what was going on, why I was eating that much food, why I wasn't eating that much food at a particular time, or why I was going out to do something, then their perception was different and they become more supportive. So I think we've just got to understand what other people are doing and what's happening. It makes us, you know, better to be around, definitely.
Teaching people how to affect to affect their social network. So
absolutely.
Their supportive circle is imagine if you're a mum of a few kids and you know you're at home all day and you're trying to bring them up and you're feeding them stuff, and kids can have naughty things all the time because they, you know, a kid doesn't know how to walk. They run and jump and spring and bop all over the place, so they're constantly growing. They can handle these foods. Now imagine you're that woman trying to lose weight. Your husband's not supporting that effort because you haven't really told him how important it is. Let's say it might not be even his fault. And your kids are there and you're giving them treats all day and there's snacks around, like that's a recipe for disaster. Whereas if you have that conversation, like you're saying, Carl, there, which is, I think, is a brilliant point, just explaining to people why, if somebody sat down and says like, right, I'm trying to make these changes in my life because I don't like where I'm at, or I want to improve what it is that I am. I want to feel better about myself. And this is something I need support on as well. I think if people express how important this is to them, how could people argue it? How could they be so negative about it? They would be more, if they were truly your friends and whatever, then they would be on board and fully supportive.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. And I think my greatest progress, if I refer back to like the bodybuilding, was when I had, like, you know, when I said a window of opportunity, it was because everybody around me was on board. They understood. They were like, I know what he's going through. I know when that's difficult. I can tell when he's feeling this. I can tell when he needs that. And that is a good, you know, network of people around you. And you're very fortunate if you've got that around you, but not everybody has. So sometimes you do have to just crack on and, you know, deal with it yourself. You can't always expect everybody to, I know it's slightly contradictory to what we're saying, but you can't always expect everybody as well to change what they're doing or even understand what they're doing, because if they have no common interest in it, and they don't want to, then that's entirely up to them. Do you know what I mean? So sometimes you might have to be a bit stronger and a bit kind of like mentally stronger and just deal with it yourself. But then maybe find like-minded people, for example, at the gym or in circles where you're going to then bump into somebody that will click with you and understand. So when we get our clients that come into the gym and they're just like, they train me, I train with them, somebody, and then George trains with somebody. The common thing is they're both being trained by two idiots. I mean, two people that are putting through the same thing. So for that reason, they've got something in common that they can talk about then and then have a laugh. They might not know each other outside of the gym, but that's a common ground where they can go, yes, I'm in a calorie deficit. And, that common ground then is linked through there.
Yeah, so you can we can create our own network, I guess.
You can. If you're unlucky enough to not have it, then you can create it somewhere or find it potentially.
Yeah. Guys, what do you think of my hair growth? 6 weeks.
Hair growth.
6 weeks, no haircut. Look, I genuinely think that it's still going bald, but it's longer.
No comment.
When you first started saying about it, lose my hair, I didn't believe you, but I believe you,
mate. I'm definitely there's no I'm not paranoid. There's holes. Do you know what I mean? There's like holes where hair used to be.
Yeah. Oh man, there was I don't know what it was called. Was it Phone Shop? Did any's ever happen to watch Phone Shop?
Yeah, I watched a couple of episodes of it. Yeah.
There was the white guy on there, the one that had that rude boy accent.
Yeah.
He was on there and it was hilarious, man. I died because it took me a few seconds to actually catch what he was saying. He was like, bruv. And he's like, the other guy's like, what? And he's like, bruv, my hair's becoming a mystery, bruv. Or no, he said, my hair's becoming a myth. And he's like, what you saying, man? And he put his head down. He's like, it's becoming a myth, bruv. It used to be there. Now it's not, man.
That's me. I'm going to become an M head at some point. It's going to kind of. So
gave it all off.
Yeah, that's it, Carl. That's the one.
First, I'm going to grow it as much as I can. And like I said, and I'm just going to comb it over all the.
Just do a Carl. Just get a full-on Carl haircut now. Just go grow all the way long ponytail.
This is somewhat out of laziness because I got to a point where if you get short back and sides, this isn't interesting, but it's just you're having to get it done every couple of weeks. So it's like, the easiest thing to do? Not get it done.
Yeah. I used to think about that with my beard, and then it got amazingly long at one point.
But I love haircuts, man. That's just my favorite. It's one of my favorite things. Every week I get it. Well, every week, yeah. It's only stopped now, but I'm still cutting myself every week.
Yeah. I mean, it looks right. Show us your hair. Show us come closer, man, so we can see the fade. Turn it. It's not bad.
Not bad.
It's not bad. I mean,
I mean, it's not perfect either, but it's not bad. Like, nobody can tell over the phone.
No, absolutely. I mean, go further away and it looks great.
Yeah. Oh, wow, what a haircut. Oh, that's shit.
All right. So that's I think that's us there, guys. Simon, you've got a client here fairly shortly.
Can I just ask just one question I've got?
Of course, man. Yeah.
What is the number one thing that you struggle with clients who are looking for fat loss? What's the one thing that you find that's the hardest thing to get over?
Do you want to go first, Carl?
I know one thing is that's a hard thing to go, but the most common issues that you deal with, do you think it could be solved or whatever?
I think it comes from a point of view of that the most common thing is trying to get them to understand that it's not necessarily just the exercise and the calories that they're burning that they need to focus on. There's a much broader picture. Let's say lifestyle. It's things to do with like your sleep. It's to do with everything in and around it. And I find that once we start sort of like looking and dissecting those things, their general well-being, it could be mental health as well. It could be quite a few things. And I'm not saying I'm a specialist in that area, but just talking to somebody and, finding little speed bumps and trying to sort them out. Then the training and the nutrition, where they were struggling with before and have had maybe years of issues with it and, constantly yo-yoed up and down, falling off the wagon and back on it. They start to become a little bit easier to do because they've got these things sorted. And I think it's just trying to explain to people because you've got this mentality of it's like, right, if I burn 1 million calories and if I train that many times a week and if I just eat fish and rice cakes, then I'm going to be golden. And it's just trying to kind of like get people to think about like the things that they need to get your foundation set And then those things become a lot easier. Adhering to training sessions, enjoying training sessions, getting your nutrition sorted. It becomes a heck of a lot easier if you can get everything else behind it happier. And I say that from a competitive point of view, but then also from my personal experience, but then also my experience with coaching lots of people. And once we get the ball rolling with those things, the training, the results, those things come along a lot better.
For me, Simon, I think obviously I totally agree with you, Carl. The one thing I think that I have to really like coax people towards is getting away from this mentality where it's you either do everything, training, nutrition as clean as you can, or you don't do anything at all. So you either eat the world or you eat nothing. You know, and getting people to understand that no, let's not do this for 12 weeks. Let's do this forever. You might want to do an intense period for 6 to 12 weeks, but getting people to understand that this is something that you do, whether it's with me as a coach forever or whether it's with me for a bit and then on your own, this is something that you have to do kind of constantly for the rest of your life if you want to maintain good health. And with good health, I truly believe comes fat loss. So it goes back to what you were saying, Carl, about setting those good foundations and then using a 6 or a 12-week period here and there to accelerate some progress rather than using it as I'll do it now and then I'll forget about it for the rest of the year. That's what I find the hardest, getting people.
Yeah, absolutely. I think as well, sometimes if somebody comes to you and they've got their mindset around 6 weeks, 12 weeks, getting ready for holiday and stuff like that, if you're a competent enough coach, let them believe that that's the period of time. Let them work to it because that's their goal. That's in their head. That's fine. Don't, try to create too many issues. But in that period of time, you should be able to get enough information and educate them well enough that when it comes to the end of it, they're starting to grasp the basic concepts to start being able to do it themselves. If that's, some ways of training, adhering to things inside and outside of the gym, just general things like educating them on sleep and so on like that. I just think that by the end of sort of like 6, 12 weeks, you're starting to, sometimes this isn't always, some people it's not always going to happen, but you're going to start to get them educated enough where they then come back from whatever it is they were doing. And then they're like, cool, I know a little bit, and then they can keep going and they start wanting a little bit more information from you or learning a little bit more progress and then moving forwards.
Yeah.
What about yourself, Simon?
Well, for me, I find it's just making a commitment, taking that step to make a commitment that you are going to do what you set out to do, and because it's easy for us to go like, all right, yeah, just have chicken and rice for 3 meals a day and life is all good and sweet. Eat a stick of broccoli and you'll lose all the weight in the world. But making that commitment, because it's easy, we can talk to people and we can suggest all these things and we can work through their diet, but unless they make that commitment in themselves, and then when they make that commitment, stick to it consistently, that's, I find, hard, because like you just said, there's up days, there's down days, there's times when people will go off the rails with their diet, and then that one day off the rails leads to 2-3 weeks of damage where they just have gone, I just can't get back on track. I can't get, it's okay to be bad and have a high calorie day and have days where you overeat. It's life. We all do it, but it's getting back on that wagon. But I find making that commitment where you're like, I am going to make that change. That's the hardest. They just try and flip that switch in some people. Because in our field, people come to us for help because they don't know how to help themselves. That's the way I see it. We've got the skills and the tools to help them. And sometimes when we're trying to get them, they make the change because it's come out of our mouth. And yes, we talk about their goals and so on. They still find it hard to really just tune in and make that commitment. And I'm going to really try and reduce snacks in and around the time. And then they do it for 2-3 days and then go off the boil. And then you're trying to work that out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think when somebody's desperate enough, they'll commit to it as well. So you've got to look at certain situations where if it's genuinely what they want, they will figure out a way of committing to it. And that's for us to help them figure that out and figure a way of committing to it. Yeah. If somebody's half in, half out, then you're always going to come across the same sort of speed bumps and issues with them adhering to stuff. I've had a really good 2 weeks, but this weekend I've just, and that following week, and then I did this, and then you're like, excuses start coming through, and you're like, do you want this? Like, how much do you want this? If you've got either something competitive that you're working towards, something that's life threatening injuries, whatever, I don't know, you know, whatever it is, if they're desperate for it, they will commit to it normally. And which why you get, you know, you get a lot of people that just maintain and just cruise because they're just like, there's no real
goal. They just want to train.
No stress, you know what I mean? Which
Yeah.
isn't always a bad thing.
No, absolutely
Some
not.
people, you know, if there's just part of their lifestyle that they want to just exercise in a particular way and everything is fairly good, but it makes them feel good and they enjoy what it does as part of their lifestyle, then that's okay. That's also okay. It's not a problem at all.
Can I say you guys have probably experienced, last thing, I know we're all keeping each other here, but you guys have been trainers for a long time now, and we've all noticed, have you guys had people who you've trained for years and you've tried to, you know, put different things across to affect their goal, to try and get them to commit to their goal, like you said, Si, and it could be 2 years down the line, and then all of a sudden that switch happens, and then they get the understanding, and then they get the, oh, I see, but so although it's sometimes I find like I feel like I'm not getting anywhere where I'm constantly trying, this is what we should do, this is what don't see us, all these information that I'm trying to give people. Eventually when that trigger happens, that's when all that information that you've given them becomes really becomes
real.
I'll use Tom, I hope he doesn't mind me quoting him, but Tom D, you know Tom as an example, and he comes, when he initially came to me, it was that whole, you know, I want to get in the best shape as I can at the shortest time as I can. And the second time he came back to train with me, it's like a switch had gone in his head, and he realized that, hey, this is not just a short stint, this is about health, my life. And he's got better results now in a much more controlled way than he's ever done. And I affected that a tiny bit with you know, the information that I gave him in the training program, but actually it was down to him really is the majority of that. So, and I'm kind of just helping along the way. So yeah, I think,
we're not here as coaches to ram down information down their necks. We're not here just like splurting everything out. We're here to just like, you know, say, you know, this is what you could do, give them a little bit of information, let them figure it out themselves. When they ask for it, then you can give it. And depending on what type of person is to what type of information you're giving them. But it is really rewarding when you've given them a little bit of information and then they start to, the penny drops themselves. It's very satisfying when you get that. Some people, you know, it happens at different time frames and it just depends on what's going on, but when they get it, you're like, brilliant, that's why we do what we do, just to let them, you know. I think as a coach, and I won't go on if you need to go, but as a coach, it's important for us to spend as much time as we can do educating the clients so that they can do what we want them to do or what they want to do on their own without us.
Yeah, absolutely.
We don't want to get into a relationship where they're completely reliant on us, that they cannot do anything on their own. So if they go into the gym and they haven't got us, they don't know how to use a lat pull down or something. That's not a good way of doing it.
Yeah.
We need to educate them so that they are absolutely capable of doing all these things on their own, give them the little bits of information that help them. And that would be, I guess, a way of how I would perceive it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that sort of mentality is really good, because in any type of the fitness industry, whether it's fat loss, muscle growth, or even with our back loss, our back health, back loss. Imagine a back loss. Even with our back health clients, we hello Neva. I'll just put Neva up here. You can talk to the guys. Getting people to be able to do it themselves by so much trust, I believe. So you're going to say hi to Simon and Carl and everyone else who's watching. Say hi. Don't just, that's it. What are you doing? Doing? Who's that? Who's that at the bottom? Who's that? You know that? Is that Simon? Yeah.
Look at those lines in his haircut.
Right, can you say bye to the guys, please? Bye, guys. Right, go on, Dave. I'll be down in a minute. Go on. Gents, is there anything else we want to chat about? I've got probably 5 minutes so I can chat in this. That
was good, man. I got all I need. That was perfect.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that.
I mean, if you want to do anything specifically more down the route of like bodybuilding, it's such a big subject and we can talk about it for hours and ends, and I'm quite happy to do something more specific for that.
That'd be great.
Hypertrophy is so big, and that's absolutely fine. And then if you want to talk more about kind of like the gym and where we're going with that, happy to do that as well, and what we're aiming to go you know, over the next few years with where we're going with Stanza Fitness and the team that we've got with us. They're all quite big subjects, but I'd be happy to talk about them again.
To be honest, Carl, one of the questions I was supposed to ask you was, what's your plans for coming on the other side of this? But I feel like that's quite a big question. In short, it is to open and try to operate as we were before, so offering the service that we were, and making sure we've got everybody together, but with the greatest safety as possible. So we're obviously going to be waiting on the guidelines that we need to, and we need to sit patiently, not rush it, and hopefully we can operate as we were beforehand. Same environment, same ethos, same happy people in there, and getting, you know, it doesn't feel like you're walking into something post, you know, this, where it's completely changed the feel of exercise, you know, being in a gym environment. We need to go back to as much normality as possible, but whilst we're doing it, to adhere to all the safety things that are put in place by the government, by Baines and whoever like that, and also our own legislation of what we want to keep everybody safe as well. And we've got some new equipment coming. We won't maybe not say it right now, but we've got some. Yeah, no, we're doing changes. We always hope to evolve. It's just dependent. You know, we didn't plan for this to happen, so this hasn't really helped us in terms of getting in there and getting certain things done. But we want to always be evolving the equipment. We also want to be educating the team. We also want to be doing, like, you know, additional training for us to pass on to our clients and members. We want to get back doing seminars. We absolutely love doing that. Bringing more education into members and to the clients. And yeah, drip feed and bits of information and bits of equipment in and out whenever we can do. If there's anything we need to do to improve it, then we're always open to suggestions. The gym's used by us, but it's also used by other people. So we love getting feedback from people. So yeah. Carl's just got one of those treadmills, Simon.
The Prowler treadmills where you can set levels of resistance or no resistance on it, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's
the curved ones. Yeah, it's horrible.
Yeah.
Gents, thank you very much. I think that was a really, really good good one today. Not that the previous ones weren't, but you know, sorry everyone else. That's not what I meant. I meant that sounded better in here than it.
George.
Stop.
Yeah.
Carl, thanks very much for coming on, mate. We'd love to get you on in a couple of weeks.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me, and I appreciate having the time to talk to you guys. It's nice just to chat, basically.
Yeah. We've got Sam Pullen on next week, I believe, everybody. Some of you guys know him, but if you don't, he is a CrossFitter. He also runs a company called Own Your Range, which is very much about mobility and joint health. So it'd be good to get his take on what he's doing and stuff like that at the moment. So look out for next week, guys. And then Carl will probably chat to you about the week after, if you don't mind. He's gone. He's gone already.
I'm sorry, I had a phone call.
It's all right. He's just had enough of my voice.
Gone.
George.
All right, gents. Have a really good one, and we'll see you in a week.
Pleasure. See you later.
Cool. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.